Earlier this week, I caught up with Stewart Grant, old friend of the podcast, new place, Altavista High School, where he is the baseball coach. We talked about the Dogwood District. How long did it take him to get familiar? How long did it take players to adjust to Coach Grant and Coach Grant to adjust to the players? That and much, much more with Stewart Grant, head baseball coach at Altavista High School, on the Sports Buffet podcast.
Always fun when I get to catch up with Stewart Grant. We used to talk Seminole District baseball, but now the head coach of the Altavista Colonels, so we get to talk Dogwood District baseball. And I've always said that you and Jeff Monroe should just swap homes during the school year, since he makes the drive from Altavista to Bedford. You make the drive from Bedford to Altavista. It's kind of funny that way.
Yeah, it's kind of worked out strange that way, Bob. For a while, I was trying to get Jeff to move towards Bedford to make it easier on him, and now the roles are completely reversed.
How's it been the first year? I mean, it's obviously, I don't think it's a ton different to where you don't know any soul in the Dogwood District or you didn't know the players because you had been in the area. But give me your synopsis of how season one has gone so far for you.
I've been pleased with the way we've played at Altavista. It's been a learning experience for not just me learning the Altavista guys, but them learning me as well. At my previous school, we played most of the schools in the Dogwood at some point in my tenure, so I knew a lot of the coaches and even knew some of the players as well.
How long do you feel it took the players to get used to you, or do you feel it took you longer to get used to them?
Well, with the new rules changes where you could actually practice a little bit more with your players, that was somewhat beneficial. But being at a small school, a lot of these guys were playing multiple sports, so I didn't get to see them before baseball season as much as I'd wanted. So even, I'm going to say halfway through the season, we were still learning a lot about each other.
For people that may not know your coaching style or your coaching demeanor, give me a synopsis of Stewart Grant in a nutshell.
I like to be aggressive offensively. I like to try to steal a lot of bases. We like to be very aggressive on the base paths when we're not stealing, take a lot of chances offensively, put a lot of pressure on the other teams defensively.
How about personality? I mean, what do you like in practice? What do you think, if I asked one of your kids, what would they say about you?
I try to be very regimented with the practice. Whatever we're doing, we're going to start at a certain time and hopefully end at a certain time and get things done, get in, get out, move around a lot with what we're doing, and try not to stay on one thing too long, just for the fact that they get bored with it.
I've been talking to some other Dogwood coaches, and everybody has kind of agreed. Everybody's got that one ace to throw. I know it's a little bit different for you now with the way the regionals break down. With that being said, I guess everybody's going to try to go game one because game one's really the most important one to win the district tournament.
And that's the way it is with every district that you're in, but even more so with the Dogwood and how teams are sent to the regional tournaments. So much emphasis is put on making it to the tournament semifinals. So, yeah, it's very, very important.
I think everybody knows what type of talent Ricky Adams is, and no different probably you did in terms of coming in. But who are some other players on your team that have kind of caught your eye, and if Altavista is going to win, they got to have a good game?
Jake Reynolds behind the plate is a tremendous catcher. Defensively, he does a wonderful job. Offensively, he swings a very big bat for us. Carrington Neal has been a pleasant surprise for me. He's a left-hander, a junior, playing really well in the outfield, up and down a little bit with the bat, but pitching, he's been a very consistent number 2 guy for me. Another left-hander, Adam Emerson, has been hurt a little bit, but defensively he has been spectacular in center field, and that's where he's been our mainstay in the outfield and doing a great job up there.
I'm going to go old school here on you a little bit. Back when you played, how much in charge was the catcher how much in charge was the catcher of the game, or have pitches always pretty much been called from the dugout from the beginning of time?
I think it just depends on what coach you go with.
Mm-hmm.
There have been times, depending on who's pitching, and with Jake's knowledge of the Dogwood, I've let those guys do it. For the most part, I've been calling pitches 90% of the time. But I think it just depends on the coach and his style and how much trust that he gives his catcher and how experienced they are behind the plate.
But even if you're calling pitches 90% of the time, you still want Jake to kind of be the quarterback out there. Talk about what you want out of a catcher's leadership, even with you kind of doing the legwork in terms of actually calling the signs.
I want the catcher to, like you said, to be the quarterback of the defense, to set everybody up, to let everybody know what bunt coverages we have on, our first and third plays, just to make sure everybody's alert when balls are hit. And if you're going to be the quarterback of the defense, you got to show the must hustle. You know, whether it's backing up first base on a routine ground ball to shortstop, or getting your pitchers to move around on balls hit to the outfield. If he's going to lead the team, he's got to lead the team by example as well.
I know you were a former defensive coordinator, too, back in your day. Is it more pressure on that middle linebacker or safety, or is it more pressure on the catcher? I know it's two different sports, but...
I'm going to go a little more pressure there with the linebacker on the football team. If he's got a real good pitcher throwing and he's around the plate, the catcher probably doesn't have to do quite as much work in terms of blocking the balls and so forth.
Every district, I think, always, if we played interviews from 3-4 years ago, you would probably say the district had good pitching, but the Dogwood really has some aces at the top with Osborne down at Gretna, Hames at Chatham. Obviously, you got one with Ricky Caruso at Appomattox. You don't go to Longwood to play baseball by accident. Talk about when a number one is on the hill, the toughness that guy can bring in the Dogwood district.
Oh, if you don't have your number one facing their number one, it's going to be a tough night to win. Hames down at Chatham is, no matter who you've got on the mound, it's going to be very, very difficult to win. We faced him twice. In 2 games, he struck out 26 of us, which is quite an accomplishment.
Right.
We were lucky to beat him one time. He struck out 16 one night against us, and we were fortunate enough to get 10 hits and beat him 6-4 down at their place. He's tremendous. We've only faced Appomattox once. Dylan Caruso was hurt that game, so we didn't see him. Coach Caruso at Appomattox has got a very deep staff. And we saw another pitcher and Hammer, and he did a real good job keeping us off balance all night. And he's still got one other young man that's very good in Perkins.
How different are the aces in the Dogwood in terms of are a lot of them overpowering, or can they change it up to go breaking? I mean, if you play Chatham one day and Appomattox the next, or then William Campbell, or then Gretna, is it pretty much I got my ace stuff, here it comes, you hit it?
Well, if you've got an ace, he's got more than one pitch.
Right.
And all of these guys not only have more than one pitch, but they can control those pitches and spot them very well.
What makes Hames so good that maybe the general fan wouldn't notice?
He's got a little cutter on him. His fastball moves a little bit, and then he cuts it a little bit, and it slides off the plate some. And you're gearing up for that fastball. He throws his curveball across for a strike, and then he throws that cutter in too. So he's got 3 pitches that are extremely effective, and for the average fan, you might just see 2 coming at you.
When you came to Altavista, what was your biggest concern?
I don't really know if I had a huge concern. The support of the administration was there. The attitude of the players were already there. My biggest concern, I guess, was just getting everybody in order as a team in terms of what I wanted to do with them, get them on board with what I was trying to get done, and just play the style of baseball that I like trying to coach.
Rick Adams had never played basketball until this year. He was a very key part of the Colonels basketball team. And it might be hard for you to answer because you didn't coach him in the past, but what did you see out of Ricky when he came in this year?
I saw a young man who has, by playing basketball, was now a 3-sport athlete and had dedicated his after-school hours to playing sports and leading Altavista to a lot of wins, not only in football but in basketball. And I think that discipline has carried over into the baseball season this year. He's been a very mature young man with a very bright future.
How much have you relied on your players to be leaders in terms of, this is your first year, I don't want to, necessarily nuke everything you guys did. This has kind of been your team too, and I still want you to control it. Talk about the leadership.
Well, they graduated a lot of kids off of last year's team. And some of the leaders were still there in terms of Rick Adams and Jake Reynolds. Those are our 2 most vocal guys. We have another couple guys that lead by example. I mentioned Adam Emerson is one. Jacob Beast is another. But that wanted to try to take over as leaders both on and off the field.
I've had some coaches tell me that, when they've taken their first year with a new job, everybody's got a clean slate. They almost didn't want to know anything that had happened in the past, good or bad. Do you share that mentality?
Well, it's always interesting to see how the individual players have done in the past. I talked to Coach Finn, the previous coach at Altavista, a few times about some of the stats that the guys had, and but other than that, I was just wanted some baseball knowledge about what they had done and hadn't done in the past. But other than that, I hadn't really worried about it.
What's your biggest concern and your biggest strength as we head towards postseason?
We've only got 12 players on our varsity, so depth is an issue. I feel like our starting nine is as strong as anybody's in the Dogwood. Not to take anything away from our three guys that are sitting beside me, because we've all of them have started several games during the year. But depth to me is an issue, as with a lot of single A schools. Not just pitching depth, but just depth in general. When you get an injury here or there, that makes a big difference. And I've had a couple guys hurt this year that have impacted the program a lot.
When we look at now, talk about strength as we head into the postseason.
I think the strength has been our hitting. We're hitting over 270 as a team. Maybe not quite as consistent as I want or would have liked, but as a group, we're hitting the ball extremely well. And it starts at the top of the lineup with Rick Adams and works its way down to 4 and 5 hitters and Jake Reynolds and Josh Walker.
Cliche, of course, to say, you can't take a night off in the district no matter what district you're in. We talked a little bit about Chatham. Talk about some of the other teams in the Dogwood and what impresses you about them. I guess we touched on Appomattox as well.
Yeah, Appomattox has a lot of pitching depth. I said that. I think the school that's playing the best as a team by far is William Campbell. We've mentioned some of these other guys from other teams by name, but the average fan wouldn't know very few of the William Campbell players. And I think that goes a credit to their guys and Coach Haga as well, because of how well they're playing as a group. Nelson County doesn't have very many district wins. They beat us, I think, as their only district win right now. But they played everybody tough, and they played several games in extra innings. In fact, the game we beat them, we went 12 innings with them. And they've had several games where they've gone extra innings. And Coach McGarry is doing a great job there, keeping those guys focused and competitive in every game. We talked about Gretna a little bit. They've got a couple superstars on the team, and any given night they can beat anybody, as the Osborne kid that you mentioned, no-hit William Campbell.
And then, I know people had told me in the past, Dan River has been so young, but every year those guys get a little bit older, and people have told me you don't find a better guy around than Sammy McCormick. What's your impression of the Wildcats?
I played Sammy every year at my previous school, so I knew him quite well. You can't beat him. You can't beat him as a friend. You can't beat him as a coach. He's a great young man. He teaches the game and coaches the game of baseball like everyone would hope would go on. There's not a better man to lead a team than Coach McCormick, and they're doing a fine job down there as well.
Coach, as always, appreciate your time. Best of luck as we head towards postseason, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Bob. Thanks a lot, and you have a good day.
Stewart Grant on the Sports Buffet.